Thank you for coming. Great day, isn't it? Awesome, thank you. So, my name is Stuart Schlossman, like I said, and I'm president and founder of MS Views and News, and I too have multiple sclerosis, and I learned to teach MS to live with my life, all right? Yes, I say that because I run around the country doing MS programs. There are doctors, even the one that's here tonight, wants to know how is it that I have the energy to be running around this country doing MS programs. This year we're doing over 50 programs in 23 states, all right? And yeah, wow, exactly. And how do I have the energy to do this? All right, I mean, there's only 52 weeks in the year. Well, again, I had to teach MS to live my life, and if it doesn't like it, then get the hell out of here, right? That's the easy thing to say. All right. So going forward, MS Views and News does provide educational programs. We provide information and resources. If you use our website, you'll get to know more and more about what it is that we do and the information that we provide. We have a blog. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're pretty much all over the place, and so hopefully you'll follow us there as well. So for today's program now, I want to move things along rather quickly. We have a lot to discuss. For today's program, I want to thank two companies, Sanofi-Genzyme and Biogen, for without their charitable donations, we cannot do these programs. So I want to give them a round of applause. I hope you all do as well. Thank you. The pharmaceutical industry really does want you to learn about what's going on with your bodies, all right? They want you to be more in tune with what is multiple sclerosis, what it is that you can do for better health, what it is that you can do for any other aspect about MS that may not be medication related. And so they really like when we get out there and we do these programs. So again, that's another reason why we're out there. All right, for tonight's program, I'm cutting short because my voice is like limited. I just got back from Nashville the other day, and next week I'll be in Pittsburgh, all right? And it's just, nonstop, so I'm losing my voice. All right, so for tonight's program, we have Jeff Segal, who's a personal trainer, and he'll be up in a little bit, and Dr. Daniel Cantor is here as well, and he'll be up after Jeffrey Segal. We're gonna have dinner during the programs, like I was saying, and before we get started with either of those two speakers, I wanna ask the group leaders that are in this area to come on up and speak about their groups for 90 seconds each. So we're going to start with Ann Jones, all right? And Teresa, if you could get set up at the end of the runway here. We had this runway set up just for you guys, so you can feel like champions coming on up here, all right? Everybody gets 90 seconds. They're going to talk to you about their group. They're being video recorded. They know about this. And then after two of them, we're going to ask Carolyn Palmer from MS Pals. And then we have Travis. Travis is here from Mindset, and he's going to speak with you about this as well, okay? Come on up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ann Jones, and I live in Fort Worth. I've had the friend-to-friend MS support group going for 10 plus years. We make it fun and light and share information, cheer each other up when we need to, but we just really love being together and supporting each other. And if anybody wants any information about the group, I know we're all kind of a scattered group, but we meet during the week on the third Wednesday of the month at noontime, and so everybody is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And now we have Teresa Wynn from Arlington.
Again, my name is Teresa Wynn. I live in I actually live in Mansfield, Texas, but our meetings are in Arlington, so it's kind of a more central location. We meet at Fielder Church Annex in Arlington. Normally it's going to be the first Saturday of the month. If it's a holiday that falls on that weekend, we usually meet the following weekend. Our meetings we try and keep very positive and upbeat at our meetings. I have some of my group members here today at this meeting, so they can attest to that. MS can be a very disturbing time in our lives, but we try and keep it upbeat. We have a mixture of speakers and shared time with each other. Our meetings normally we meet as a group, but then we actually offer family and friends the opportunity to break off about halfway through the meeting so that they have a chance to talk a little bit about us and share the challenges that they faced living with someone with MS. So thank you guys. I hope that y'all will come, and I have some cards if you would like the address of where we meet. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Travis Earhart, right? And Travis is with Mindset. They do fitness and yoga in Fort Worth, and Travis will let you know.
Yep. Thank you. It's nice to see some familiar faces. For those of you who don't know, my name is Travis Earhart and I've been providing exercise programs for people with multiple sclerosis for over 15 years. We specialize in creating the connection between the mind and the muscles, and we host a large facility that encompasses yoga and Tai Chi and strength and balance training in Fort Worth, and we also have a location inside the National MS Society. All of our programs for people with multiple sclerosis are usually free or at a low cost. We have grants and partnerships with the National MS Society and the Multiple Sclerosis Association of America. If anybody has any questions, I'll be around all evening. I'd love to visit with anybody who has any interest about their own personal wellness and exercise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Travis. And now we have Carolyn Palmer from MS Pals, Texas.
Yes. First off, I just want to thank the MS Views and News for letting me say a few things. And a little bit about MS Pals. MS Pals was founded by Mary Pettigrew here in Dallas and myself. She was here in Dallas, I was in California. We met on Twitter in like 2011. And we decided we had begun to meet so many people throughout the world on Twitter that we wanted to start a support group. It's not a research group, a support group where people can talk and get to know each other and talk about what's important to them and what's going on in their daily life and how they live with MS. And we grew, we decided to call it MS Pals, and then in 2014, we are now on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook, and we're a support group. That's what we are, and we're 24/7. And we have MS Pals through all the states. We have MS Pals UK, we have MS Pals Australia. And so join us. You can find a lot more about us. We have a website, mspals.org, and you'll find a lot of people. We have bloggers there, and that's what we're about. We're about support. We're about giving the hugs. Some days all you need is a hug. So we pride ourselves in being a positive place to meet in the middle of the night when you wake up and you're just going, I can't sleep tonight. I don't know why I'm not sleeping, but I can't sleep. Well, pull out your phone, get online, and we're there to talk to you. So thank you so much, and I hope that you have a lovely evening, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So MS Pals has helped us greatly as well, because whenever we break out into a new area, they let us go on to the different sites that MS Pals has for each state, and we promote our programs through their social media as well. All right, so next up, we have Jeffrey Segal. And Jeffrey Segal is the recipient of the 2007 National Strength and Conditioning Association Personal Trainer of the Year Award. He's authored articles for numerous MS publications, in addition to others such as Shape Magazine. He's a national motivational and educational speaker. He's a graduate of the Florida State University, and he's been living with MS since 1998. Come on up, Jeffrey. You know how to turn that on? Great. Good going.
Thank you. One of the most important things that we forget to do is drink enough water. This is definitely a country filled with dehydrated people. And I know it gets pretty hot in the Dallas area. If it's anything like where I'm from in South Florida, it's hot all year round. Well, here you guys get some cool air. Last year, I don't think it got under 50 degrees where we are, so being an MS patient myself, it's not fun. But I live with it. There's a few things I want to touch on before I get into some exercise examples and some different scenarios. You guys have to believe in yourself. Nobody that tells you they believe in you is going to be enough. You do need support, but when you believe in yourself, it goes a lot further than just saying it's okay when somebody else says, hey, you can do it, I'm here for you. That's great, but you got to want it. You got to know what it is that you want, and you got to go after it. Because there's no free rides. There's no magic solution, magic potion that's going to make life easier. That comes with hard work. You ask any athlete out there, you ask the best athletes in any sport that are retired, you ask them what they remember most about being a phenomenal athlete, and they'll tell you the hard work they put into it that led up to every game they played in. You ask Michael Jordan what he remembers the most, it's not holding up the trophies, it's what got him to winning those trophies. So you really got to know what it is you want, you got to be willing to make sacrifices. Every day, you got to sacrifice something. It doesn't have to be something crazy, it doesn't have to be something big, but the things you sacrifice might happen to be something as simple as your cell phone. Imagine living a day without your cell phone. Think back to the days when we did. What do we do before cell phones, before social media, before all these great things that do have their place in our society now? Because if it wasn't for social media, we probably all wouldn't be sitting here today. That and MS, right? But we played as children. We went out, we were active, we did things, we had fun. That's what life is all about. How many of you in this room do not remember being a child and having a good time and playing and doing all the things that you would love to do right now? Well, I'm sorry, you didn't wake up one day and look in the mirror and say, I'm too old to do it. That day never came. It may have accumulated into that, but you think about all the hard work. I mean, I was a high school football star. All-state football player, defensive end. You'd never believe it now because I was twice the man that I am as I am today. I literally weighed just about twice the weight that I do right now when I was playing football. And in Florida, I don't know what the biggest sport is in Texas. Yeah, I know Texas, Florida, and then California. Those are the 3 football states. I mean, we play football year-round. If you don't play football, you're watching football. And everybody wanted to play. So one thing I learned during those years was life is about participation. You have to participate to get more out of life. You can't be a spectator your whole life. You got to participate. I was diagnosed with MS in 1998. It was a shock to me. But when I look back, it was the biggest motivational tool that I have. It was like the key that was handed to me. Because I wasn't always standing up in front of a room. I wasn't always standing up, and I wasn't always able to speak. There was a time I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, and I couldn't see. So I've been in and out of all the hard times that people have with MS, and I understand what it's like. And I also understand what it's like to try to get up when you can't every day and fall flat on my face and get on my hands and knees and crawl on the ground. And that's when I realized how important it is to support yourself. I had already gotten my degree. I understood exercise. I understood exercise from a sports standpoint. Had I known the things I know today back then when I was a football player, I would have been twice the player I am today. I remember as a child, how many times did you hear an adult come up to you and say, oh, if I only knew then what I know now. You hear that, right? Well, if I knew how important my core strength was and how important it was to lift while standing on my feet, with my feet as my ground basis support, I would have done so much better than I did back then. And I was strong as an ox. I was the first one to practice and the last one to leave, every practice. When I graduated high school, I had a teacher tell me she was worried about me because I was an overachiever. And I said, how do you say I was an overachiever? It bothered me for 15 years thinking about how does someone tell someone they're worried about someone for overachieving? There is no overachieving. There's working to your potential, and when you get to your potential, you got to raise that potential a little bit higher. And back to believing in yourself and making those sacrifices and learning and coming to these events. And don't think you're going to come to this event and hear what I have to say and go home and just it's going to come to you. You got to want it. You got to want it really, really, really bad. And wanting it's not enough. You have to be willing to do it. How many people in here do not exercise? Don't be afraid to raise your hand, because most people don't and know they should. And they spend twice as much time, if not 10 times as much time, thinking about it as it would take to actually do it. And feel twice as bad about not doing it. And you know how much energy, mental energy, you waste by thinking about what if and when should I and all those things? Well, forget about that crap. Just do it. Nike says it better than anybody. Just do it. I mean, if you do it right now, not while you're sitting here, which I would be so happy if I looked around and I saw everybody who was able to stand up right now. That would make my day. And if you can't stand up, raise your hand up. But everybody, I want you to stand up if you're able to, and if you're not able to stand up, raise one of your hands. Raise two of them if you want, if you can. Okay, you just did twice as much as what you were doing. This is great. I mean, you guys are literally, every single person that stood up can do a squat. And if you don't believe me, ask the person next to you if you just stood up. Because if they saw you stand up, you can do a squat. You guys can sit back down. I know there's food in front of you, and enjoy the food. The food's good. But believing that you can do something, and having somebody coach you into doing it and teaching you the proper way to doing it, and then the toughest part is the willingness to do it. Because you know what you can do, you know what you should do, but it means nothing if you're not willing to do it. So you got to dig deep inside of you sometimes to get past these things. And I think I've heard every excuse in the world. And when I say give something up or make sacrifices, some of these sacrifices are, if you are able to walk and you choose to use a scooter to come to a program like this because you have to, well, damn it, good for you. But when you go home, go back to the scooter. I mean, go back to the walker. Use that walker as much as you can if you can do it. If it's unsafe to use it and you need to use the scooter, that's the time to use the scooter. But don't rely on it if you don't have to. Because one day you'll be stuck in it. And exercise is about specific adaptations to imposed demands. There's an acronym called SAID, S-A-I-D. That means that what you do is what you're able to do, and it makes it what you're able to do better and better and better. But if you don't do it, you lose it. You ever hear that? If you don't use it, you lose it? It's true. If you don't use it, you will lose it. And if you don't want it, you'll definitely never do it. So, how many people in here have a valid reason not to exercise? And the only valid reason I know not to exercise is your doctor said, you know what, if you exercise, you're going to die. That's the only thing I could think of. Because I can tell you something, being healthy is the longest, and it's just the longest way to die. The healthiest you can possibly be gives you the best chances at no matter what illness you have. But we have MS. MS does not deter other illnesses. There's comorbidity issues. So what does exercise do? What does eating healthy do? What does drinking enough water do? It gives you the best chance to be the best you can possibly be. And don't get that mistaken for being the best you ever were. Because if I asked you to do something or go to the gym, and I asked every one of you individually why you don't, I guarantee you, and I guarantee you right now that a few of you are thinking this, I would hear these words. Well, I used to be able to. Shut up. I don't care what you used to be able to do. I used to be this tall while you were able to do whatever you were just about to tell me. But for whatever reason, you're not doing it now. And if you go to the gym and you expect to do what you did at your very best, you're fooling yourself. Because when you're at your very best, you worked the hardest you ever worked in your life to get there. Think about it. Whether it's at your job, whether it's at anything, there's no secret. There's no fast track to success. And if you take that fast track, you're going to fall off just as fast as you got on. You're not going to go out to that lake out back and see a mermaid swim up to you and say, hey, do you want to ride across the lake? That's not going to happen. That's fairy tale land. You're not going to take a magic pill and get strong. You're not going to watch an infomercial at 3 o'clock in the morning and see some fit person doing some crazy exercise with some piece of equipment that he's probably never used before because he's a model and buy it and think it's going to work for you. It's not. Especially if you're not willing to use it at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's sales for you. Find something simple. Do it a little bit more. That's the other thing that you really need to do is you need to challenge yourself. Every day you wake up, you have to find one thing that you're going to challenge yourself to do. It could be the same thing every day, just a little bit more and a little bit better. That's called practice. Exercise is a way of practicing, not just as far as practicing an exercise, but it's a neurological thing going on in your body. We have MS. There's some kind of breakup in this message. The message that comes from our brain that goes to the bottom of our foot, that comes back up to our brain, the signal might get messed up and the right thing might not happen. So there's a lot of things that go into that. I believe in if you can stand and you can do different exercises with your feet as your ground base of support, you're going to get the most out of it. If you need to use support when you're in the gym, you use that. But the more you can do with your body weight and then add some extra external forces, it's great. But you need to have a way of maintaining your core. If you have to do something in a chair and that's the only way you can do it, there's plenty of simple exercises that can work your core. Let me see, I don't know if I brought it with me. I think I brought it and put it back here. How many of you have ever seen any of the videos I've done? Anybody in here? Well, that's even better because, of course, the guy video recording has seen it. A balloon. You've been seeing these since you were 1 or 2 years old, right? Every birthday, everybody sees a balloon. It's kind of fun. Someone blows up a balloon. I'm not going to turn it into a squirrel or anything. I'm just going to blow up a balloon. Anybody want to come up here so I can do a demonstration with them? If you do come up here, I don't care if you're a caregiver, I don't care if you're a patient, I don't care if you're somebody working in the kitchen. I just need somebody up here with a chair so I can show you a simple thing that you can do that will help your core. Do I have anybody that's willing to do it? Okay, sold. Will you hand me that chair? You can come over to the steps or walk up this or walk up there, whichever way is better for you.
I get to do cartwheels?
You get to do cartwheels, just not right now. All right, just have a seat right there. I'm going to move this back a little bit. All right, I want you to sit up where your back's not supported. You okay with that? A balloon. It's not a trick balloon, it's just a balloon. All I want you to do is catch it, don't get out of the chair. Here. She's practicing hand-eye coordination, right? Do you notice her falling out of the chair? Anybody see her falling out of the chair? I don't. Do you know what's preventing her from falling out of the chair? Her core. Now, if somebody can't get out of a chair at all, and you were to just keep doing this with them, what are they going to be working? Their core. It's a simple thing. And you're smiling too, aren't you? No, don't smile. You see, but this becomes exercise. And if you had 2 people just doing it back and forth, it's not that difficult, is it? It's back. That's very simple. Now, if you wanted to do something like this, just react. Don't get up, but when you see it, catch it. You can do something like that. We don't have enough room here, but if you can get out of a chair, you can get someone to hit a balloon from behind you, react to where it's going, grab it, sit back in a chair. You just did a squat, get behind the person, the other person can do it as well. Simple exercises. These are things you can do at home. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Wait, hey, I need one thing.
Yeah. please?
I need you to give your permission to be recorded.
You know what?
Consent.
Absolutely, anytime.
Okay.
You can record me as I'm walking down. Walk back up. I don't care.
Okay, the most difficult thing working with balloons is they make a loud sound when they pop, so I hope nobody's sleeping in case they pops. Okay, just want to make sure everybody's awake. How many people in here have fatigue from their MS? Fatigue. Okay. How many people in here have fatigue not from their MS? How many people just don't know why they have fatigue when they have fatigue? Okay, let's figure out why you have fatigue. I think if you took 100 people randomly out there in the working force of America and you asked them if you get fatigue, they'd probably say, I'd say most of them would say I do. Out of that group, I don't know if any of them have MS or not. People get tired. When you don't exercise, you get more tired. When you don't exercise longer, you become deconditioned. When you become deconditioned, you become fatigued. If you don't exercise, you're going to get tired doing things that normally wouldn't get you tired. When you were a child and you ran around and played out in the field and did whatever you did, all the different sports you played, tag, whatever it was, do you remember getting too tired? You don't remember stopping because you were too tired. That's because you did it every day. You were in shape. And one day you end up going to college and you get introduced to beer and you get introduced to staying up late at night and sleeping late in the morning and missing classes. Well, that type of stuff happens, and then you get a job. Not to mention your eating habits. So when somebody tells me that they're too tired to exercise, that's like saying I'm too hungry to eat. You got to start somewhere. I always work with the people that I'm training, and I have a whole list of questions I ask when someone's dealing with fatigue. One of them is, okay, how'd you sleep last night? Simple, you know. Let's be basic and follow that. You sleep okay last night? Okay, great. It wasn't because of your sleep last night. What time did you eat dinner last night? What time did you wake up today? What time did you go to sleep? How long did you have between going to sleep and eating dinner? Did you eat too much? What was it that you ate? Did you eat breakfast? All these are questions that I'm asking them as I'm getting going during pretty much the time I'm unpacking my equipment when I'm getting to someone's home. And then it can get further and further away from, okay, all these things there's no reason. Is it the MS? I just don't know. So, are you upset about something? Are you dealing with any relationship problems? Is there anything going on in your life that's stressful? Usually by this time, I've pinpointed it. I mean, if it's somebody who's been working out on a regular basis and they're in shape and they're all of a sudden they're tired, hey, the emotional effects of stress, that can get anybody wiped out. I mean, I get tired. I get tired from, you know, having problems outside, you know, doing all kinds of just the normal everyday life can be stressful and tiring. When everything is crossed off, then the light starts going off. Okay, well, maybe it's MS. There's so many little things that I can pick up on by just asking simple questions, logical stuff, and maybe it's time for them to see their neurologist. And why haven't you seen your neurologist? When was the last time you saw your neurologist? That type of stuff. And people in my profession should be asking their clients all these questions. And have you changed medicines? And did you skip your medicine? Oh, and that happens all the time. Wow, look at next to my bed. There's the pill I was supposed to take this morning. Or there's the pill that I have set aside for this morning and the one for tonight. I took them both. Oh, well, you took two different pills for your spasticity at the same time? Hey, maybe that's why you're tired. There's a lot of reasons that can go into fatigue. And when they're all crossed off, like I said, you talk to your doctor. I noticed little things about people who do exercise, which I love this about working with people with MS, with other conditions, that I can see a change, a positive change. It's something that you can show them. It's measurable. And if something goes wrong, or somebody starts to walk with a little bit of gait issues, I'm not going to fix it. I'm going to tell them to go to their doctor and see what's going on. Because if anybody else who didn't have a neurological condition came and went to work out one day and they were walking differently, yeah, I'd say the same thing to them. You need to go see a doctor. We don't just wake up and walk different. That does not happen. That's not a normal thing for normal people to have. And if you have MS, it's another reason to go see your doctor. You need to keep your doctor informed. How many people in here have spasticity problems? Okay, I want to work with your spasticity issues. What types of problems are you having with spasticity? I want one person to just give me an example. Where do you have spasticity? Go ahead. Your right leg? Where in your leg? Well, if it's drop foot and you're not having, sometimes drop foot's not a form of spasticity, sometimes it's a weakness. There's a difference between spasticity and weakness. If it doesn't work, then it's not spastic. But if it's overactive or if there's pain and you're getting like cramping or shaking, there's stretches that you can do. One thing that you need to know, first off, how many people, raise your hand if you stretch regularly. Do you warm up the muscles that you're going to use before you stretch? I see a lot of no's. Muscles are like rubber bands. Stick a rubber band in the freezer, take it out a couple hours later, and see what happens when you stretch it. It's going to either snap or it's going to get longer than it was, and it's going to stay longer than it was. You don't want either of those things to happen to your muscles. So there's a couple ways that you can warm up prior to stretching. One is an active warm-up. That's movement. Movement getting your temperature up in the muscles, and that makes them much safer to stretch. Another one is a passive warm-up. And the passive warm-up includes putting some kind of heat on a localized area that's not going to raise your core temperature. It's going to increase the temperature in that one specific area that you're going to stretch. So what's another area that somebody has spasticity in? I mean, that's a good example with your foot being drop foot, because if you have drop foot and it's caused by a spasticity issue, you could say your calf, but it's the opposite side of your leg than your calf would be. It's the anterior side. It's up here. That's not working. Or your peroneal muscles would turn the outside of your leg, and then your foot would turn down. But spastic would be jumping more, or more movement, or having extra stretch reflexes. Anybody have any example of anywhere? I saw a bunch of people raise their hand that had spasticity. I just want an example of a spot. Your knee? Yes. Okay. Is it your knee or is it the muscles that lead to your knee?
No, jumping is when my knees are, like when I stand up, I want to force them, and if I wanted them to break.
You want to force them to move so you're tight. You're just tight. So you put some heat on the area, and if you're having tightness, it's not your knee, it's the muscles that are on the above the knee and below your knee that's causing the tightness. So if you warm them up, let's say it's your quadriceps or your hip flexors. Hip flexors lead to your knee. Hip flexors are a major problem for people with MS that have issues, people who can't lift their knee up. This is hip flexion. When your hip flexors don't work properly, sometimes you recruit the incorrect muscles to achieve the same movement. If your hip flexors just don't work and you use your adductors and you're able to lift your leg up, and you can't do it with your hip flexors because they don't work, if it doesn't work and you're using the other muscles, okay, I'm not so upset about that. I still need you to see your doctor, talk to him about it. I'm sure the doctor already knows that, physical therapist as well. But those are muscles that you can stretch. If it's an issue of them being too tight, the easiest stretch for your hip flexors is if you can stand up, you get into this position right here, this leg supporting you, hands on something, this back leg, drop the knee, stay on your toes, lean back. This muscle right here is stretching so much right now. I'm going to turn this way so you can see over there. I'll do it with my other leg. Hip flexors right here. So what you would do is drop the knee, lean back a little bit. Slowly, you slowly go into it. What you do not do is bounce. When you stretch, there's no bouncing. We grew up in PE class learning all kinds of horrible stretches and horrible routines, such as the hurdler stretch. Hamstrings, any of you guys get tight hamstrings back here? If you sit a lot, you probably do, because they're not on stretch. These muscles here, when it comes to your quadriceps are on, if you sit a lot, they're on stretch all day. They're bent, these are stretched right now. These muscles get tight. So if these muscles get tight and these muscles here get tight, you know what that causes? That causes you to lose the fight with gravity. Because you're sitting at a desk for a long period of time. And how many of you guys sit at a desk for a long time? Or sit at a computer? Or just sit down anywhere for like over an hour? Or 2 hours? You know what that tells me? Two things. You need to move more, and you're dehydrated. Because if you weren't dehydrated after a couple hours, you'd probably need to use the restroom. So, another stretch for your hip flexors, which gets your quadriceps into it as well, then I'll go into some hamstring stretches, is I'm going to show you some stuff. Can you see me if I sit on the ground? All right. One is if you're able to stand and do this, which is difficult for some people, is to pull this leg up. But that's to get the quadricep. To get the hip flexor in, you have to bring it back behind your body a little bit. So you can do that laying down or laying on your side. It's like a hurdler stretch. When you're on the ground, when we were kids, we used to do what was called a hurdler stretch. Now we've changed to the modified hurdler stretch because the traditional hurdler stretch was with your one leg back and one leg forward. You remember that one? Well, people were having problems with their medial collateral ligaments by stretching them too much. So the modified, I'm not going to even show you the wrong way. The modified hurdler stretch is this position here. You remember what it used to look like with this leg facing the other way? You guys know what I'm talking about? Okay. Well, this would be reaching here. If you can reach it with both hands, great. If you feel a stretch behind your knee, you're stretching a tendon. You don't want to do that. All you got to do is bend the knee a little bit and reach. But you want to hold that stretch. And I'd say a minimum 15 seconds, if not longer. You hold that stretch. If you can come all the way down, even better. Anybody get tightness on their adductors? The muscles that are in the insides of your legs? Well, if you do, this is the stretch for that. Here, push down with your elbows onto your knees, and you're stretching the insides of your legs. Now, a large group of the people that I work with, I don't stretch at the end of the workouts because we're able to work out and get our muscles into full range of motion while we're doing the exercise, which increases our range of motion, our functional range of motion. So somebody who's got the ability to do a squat, you do a squat, you're stretching the opposing muscle groups. You do a push-up, you're stretching your chest as you come down. On your way up, you're stretching your back. You do a lat pull down, on the way up, stretching your lats. On the way down, you're stretching everything up in here and your shoulders. So for every push you do in a workout, if you combat it with a pull at some other time or within that workout, you're stretching. You're taking your muscles into full range of motion. And it's important. It's important because the only way to get a functional increase in your range of motion is to increase your function. And that's what exercise is all about. It's not what you can do in the gym. It's what you do in the gym that transfers to make things easier outside the gym. You know, there are specific rules that we have to go by. I mean, there's how many days a week should we exercise? When's the best time to exercise? Is that a question anybody has? You guys have the best time to exercise is right now. All the time. You know why? Because it's always right now. No matter when it is that you do something, it's going to be right now. So if you have to put it in your schedule to exercise 10 times a day, pick one of them. That's it. You get it over with. If you're too tired to do it at a specific time, then you pick the next time. And if the worst case scenario you have to wait till tomorrow, you do it tomorrow. Or just do some light stretching. Or just move a little bit further. If you walk to the mailbox, go twice. You know, we have memory problems. How many people in here have memory problems? Well, guess what? The more you move, the more flow you get to the brain, and the better your memory might be. Wouldn't that be something if exercise helped you think better and remember things? And I'll tell you one thing, how many of you have ever walked into the kitchen and forgot what you went in there for? Raise your hand. You know what the solution to that is? Get the hell out. Because if you go into the kitchen and you forgot what you went in there for, it's not because you were hungry. If you were hungry, you would know. Get out of there. And then you just did a lap. So then you can go back to the drawing board and you moved a little bit more. But those are simple things that you could do on a daily basis. Getting a routine is important, and keeping track of what you're doing in the routine. If you can get a personal trainer, somebody that understands how the body moves properly, have them do it, because they'll keep track of it and they'll mark your gains, and it's incredible. And you'd be surprised how happy you would be to see where you started, where you got to, and how far there is you can go, because you can. Using a towel was the thing that I was going to show you about doing some of those stretches. I'm going to go back to the stretching, and then I'm going to do a little bit of resistance stuff. And then after going through some of the exercises, at the end of this I'll have some Q&A for you. Calves, how many people get cramps in their calves? Okay, what I like to tell people who have MS, don't tuck your sheets in at night. How many of you have cramps when you're asleep at night? How many of you that have cramps when you're asleep at night tuck your sheets in? Great. I'm so happy I didn't see anyone raise their hand, because if you tuck your sheets in, it's going to push your foot down, it's going to elicit a cramp, shortening of the muscle, and that's going to make it difficult. But what I like to tell people is, if you do get cramps while you're sleeping, sleep with a towel next to you. I used to think about telling people to sleep with a rope, but you never know about the person next to them. They may go after them. But sleeping with a towel is safe. And if you sleep with a towel and you're in bed and you're able to do this, this is a good calf stretch. You want to put the muscle on stretch when it's cramping. The worst thing you can do is bend and go against the cramp. That's the worst thing. It's going to make it twice as bad. That cramp that might be in your foot will go into your calf, then it'll go into your hamstring. And if you have to lift your leg up and do it and lay back, that's good too. But don't bend it. That's what we think is good, right? You know, if your hamstring starts to cramp up. And this could be the difference between having a major bruise where you were cramping or not. It's a simple thing that you can do, is just pull on it. When you're standing and if you're getting a cramp when you're on your feet, similar to what the hip flexor stretch was, except put the foot back, keep the heel down, and I'm stretching my calf right now. Can you see over there? Like that. Same thing as when you're standing and you want to do a hamstring stretch. Leg in front of you, down to here. Well, guess what else that is? That's a lunge. So if you could do a lunge or a reach, I call them reaches now. I like doing reaching lunges, anterior reaching lunges, lateral reaching lunges, because it gets your body into a full range of motion, reaching for something, strengthening the strongest muscle that should be in your body, which is your butt. And it takes away from having a bad back, having issues where you're losing strength, taking away from having to use a third-class lever system, which is your knee joint, to lift everything, because everybody was always told to bend your knees. What happens when you get stuck down here? Same thing that happened to me by demonstrating bad exercises for years, and the wrong way to do them was I tore my meniscus. So you don't want to do that. The smartest people learn by their mistakes, right? Wrong. They learn from other people's mistakes. So that's what I'm telling you. Learn from my mistakes. I got a good meniscus now. It's cut out. It's all good. It was less than a year ago. I felt so good when I got out of surgery that I walked out of the hospital. I mean, the doctor thought I was a freak, but it was great. So as far as doing a reach, traditional lunge is going to look like this and back. You still have some flexion and extension with the hips. But to do a reaching lunge, it would be here, here, and back. Important thing is if you can get into a ready position, get into a ready position. How many of you know what the ready position is? How many of you know a sport that does not include a steering wheel where the athlete does not get into a ready position? This is a ready position. Can you think of a sport where someone doesn't get into that position?
Bocce. Bocce.
A sport. No, I'm just kidding. Huh? Football? Come on.
Get in a ready position.
Who's the quarterback?
Huh?
That's not a ready position?
Yeah.
What about a linebacker?
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying, what sport does it not have? What sport doesn't have? What sport doesn't have the ready position? You got tennis, volleyball, basketball. You got to be able to move laterally. How many people in here move laterally? Do steps to the side. How many people take a step to the side and realize that's how they fell last? Fall prevention. Lateral stepping, stepping back to the butt, strongest muscle we should have. Doing a reach, something along those lines. What am I doing now? I'm getting a stretch back here. I'm also getting a stretch in here. I'm also extending at the hips. It's also the same motion that I do if I was going to get something out of the dryer. If you get something out of the dryer, the way you've always done it, where most people, at least most people do, you're standing there, the dryers are built so messed up, I can't even tell you. You're leaning like this, you're trying to pull something out. My shoulders are all the way here past my toes. I'm hanging on ligaments, I'm not even barely using my muscles. If I sneeze, my back is getting blown out. So doing something like a lateral reach, and reaching for something, fall prevention. What if you're walking down the street and you stumble on something and your knee goes past your toe? What happens? You either have two choices. You fall or you take another step. That other step would be into the road. Or you fall down. If it's a sport, the person beats you going past you the other way. It's the same thing as getting the thing out of the dryer. You can do reaches, same thing forward. Watch this. Put this over here. If you have a cone or something, you don't want your shoulders to cross your toes. So if you can reach for something all the way out here, how much bending of the knees did I do? I really didn't bend my knees much, did I? Because I used this. I used my hip extensors. That would save a lot of people from a hurt back. You can't go right into doing that, but eventually you might be able to load it and use more and more weight. And if you want to learn how to do it properly, or if you want to learn the proper way to do a squat, you know who the best group of people are to learn from? Anybody? Children, little children. You take a 2 or a 3-year-old and you put a 10-pound weight or a 5-pound weight in the ground. If they're strong enough, they're going to do this. Perfect squat, right? If they can't lift it, what are they going to do? They're going to teach you how to do a deadlift, like an Olympic deadlift. They're going to do this. They're going to go to here, they're going to realize they can't squat down and do it, and they're going to do this. And they're going to hold something. You ever see a child do that? No one teaches them that. They learn bad habits over time. They see people that haven't been taught to do it the right way and been watching people do it the wrong way for so long, do it over and over again, that they pick up the bad habits. How about a child sitting up in bed? Take a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old and put them in the middle of a bed. You see them sitting straight up, perfect posture, right? Until they learn how to do it wrong. Then they're doing this. It takes years. It takes years to break that good habit that they had. is just doing it the right way. We're humans. Let's teach the better way rather than learn the wrong way. I mean, it's a simple way of doing things. Anybody in here feel like there's, how many people in here feel they have good posture? I see a lot of people sat up a little bit straighter while I turned around. Well, that happens. It's a habit. You know, if I were to ask you how many, to start naming the presidents from 1 all the way to now, by the time I finish saying this, I'm looking around and people are hunched over again because they've forgotten they were thinking about the presidents. Posture is a habit. I can strengthen your muscles that are responsible for posture every day of the week, week after week. If you choose not to use them, they're not going to work properly. That's just movement. That's movement for you. We want to learn to move better so we're more efficient and use less energy and get more out of everything that we do. So one of the selling points I have of a good exercise program is, imagine if you can do twice or 3 or 4 times as much as we did today and finish it with 10 times more energy in reserve at the end of the session. That's called being in shape. That's called working hard. That's the response that we get to exercise. And if you feed your body the right way, and you eat properly, drink the right foods, live a healthy lifestyle, at the end of the day, you can say, I did the best I can do for today. And your goal is, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to do as much or better than I did today. And eventually you may get to where you were at your very best. Thank you guys very much. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff. My name's Hank Koenig. I had a question. You know, those are great recommendations as far as stretches and so forth. I mean, obviously this is being recorded here, but do you have any other YouTube videos that are out there for us to reference?
I have some videos on MS Views and News Learning Channel page on YouTube. So if you look at some of the stuff I've done, similar to today, but as we go, I'm going to do a little bit more and more on stretching, and you guys keep up with that channel, and you'll learn 10 times what you got today over time. But I'll put some stuff together that's geared towards what you're saying. And there is some really good information on there. All of the stuff is being recorded that he does around the country. So whether it's myself or a physical therapist or another trainer or a neurologist, there's tons and tons of topics that you can see on there. So you might get your answers right off of the YouTube page.
Fantastic, Jeff. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
My question is that normally I started going to the gym about 2 years ago, and as I go to the gym, I normally hear my neck feels like it's popping out from my joints up here. So it sounds like snap, crackle, pop.
Well, you know, does it hurt when it does that, or you hear it?
You can hear it right now if I go ahead and use it.
I would say you just passed your hearing test. I would talk to a doctor if it bothers you, but most joints pop and crack over time. It's just a joint issue. It doesn't. If it's not hurting you, then it's awesome. You can hear well. I tell everyone that.
Normally,
but talk to your doctor and see if there's something wrong there. If it's usually pain is the first cue. You gotta react to the pain. But if there's no pain, little cracks and pops. My knees pop, my hips pop, my neck cracks. You know, when I turn it, that's part of the aging process, but you can slow that down by doing a little bit more movement and stretching.
I have another question. Normally at night, when I'm laying down in bed, I normally have to bend my knee, and I hear it pop. And then
Does it hurt?
No, I feel relaxed completely. But I normally feel my legs really numb. Until I pop it, I hear it pop really.
Talk to your physician about it if you're concerned. If it's not painful and it's been doing it for a long time and it's not slowing you down,
okay.
You know,
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
pain is the first sign of something being wrong. You know, it's your cue to do something about it. If it's not painful, mention it at your next doctor's appointment.
Okay, thank you.
Can you show us some functional exercises for people that are wheelchair bound or in a sitting position all day?
that can't get up whatsoever, if you can't get up and you're in a flex position, the best thing to do is lay down. That's going to stretch your body out. But some other things to work your core, I don't know if you were here when I was showing the balloon exercise and rotational stuff, move within your ability to rotate. Those are good things for your core while you're in a seated position.
So are you saying not to do anything with your legs?
If you can't move your legs, then move what you can move. There's some things that you can do if you're in a seated position. If you have problems with your hip flexors, something that's easy to slide around on the ground, something like this, you can do stuff using your arms to help move your legs a little bit. That's something that you can do. If you don't use your hip flexors, but you use your knee extensors and your knee flexors, you can do this type of stuff to get some movement in, which doesn't require hip flexion. But other than that, I did some stuff with the balloons that people can see that they can turn and get some core work that way. Also sitting up out of a chair, just sitting forward and sitting back. You're working your abs, you're working your lower back to get you back.
If you have a care partner, do you suggest that they help you move your legs? Would that benefit you at all?
Yes, within your range of motion without pain, if you got a care partner, I would say it's very important for you to have them help you move your legs, your limbs, your arms, whatever it is. If your left arm works, your right arm doesn't, use your left arm to move your right arm. You can help yourself.
Anybody else? I think she wanted you to see you get down on the ground and show her what you were talking about laying down and doing some of those exercises.
One's to stretch your body out?
Yeah.
Well, what I was saying is if you're in a flex position like this all day, this is what it's like seated, and this is all getting tight. When you're laying down at night, just laying straight like this, if you can, that's going to stretch out all the muscles that were bent all day. So that's going to combat it. But if you're able to get up at all, or have somebody help you get up, the most important thing is to get up. Because your body needs to move. Your body needs to be upright. Your body needs to work the way it's supposed to work. And if you can get someone to help you do that, great. If you can't, laying down is the best thing, but get physical therapy. I'm a firm believer in physical therapy, and they'll help you with stretching, and they'll help you with strengthening and fixing functional movements that you have had issues with that may or may not be from MS. There's a question over here.
Great.
I sometimes get cramps in the top of my legs, like when I go to stand up.
They just tighten up on you?
Yeah, I go from laying down to sitting up.
Well, that's something that you might be able to get some help with some heat, because heat loosens things up.
Okay.
And then a little bit of stretching after the heat, like the stretches I was showing you. If you're laying down and you get some heat on your leg to warm up the muscle, and then imagine imagine me being on my side. If you had something like this to pull, this is stretching this. So that would get a stretch out of it. And you can do that on your side, laying in bed. It's not as hard as doing it, obviously, standing up or
Okay. Thank you.
Or on your stomach. You're welcome.
Any other questions? Well, then let's give Jeff a round of applause.